Before we put our lash adjusters back in, I like to bleed them down. So basically compress these down, get all the oil out of there. Makes it easier to put the followers in. And then especially if you're changing cams, these things may be full up and take a little while to drain down. I've heard of people not bleeding these down and getting some piston to valve contact because they say because they didn't bleed these down. At least that's what the general consensus was. I don't know if it was true or not, but basically they had piston to valve contact, and they blame it on not bleeding these down. I like to bleed them down. Like I said, it makes it easier to go in. When you bleed them down, so there's a little tiny hole here. That's where the oil goes in, and it pumps this up and keeps the lash out of the followers along the cam. So when I bleed these down, I have this facing up so I can watch the oil come out of it. It's kind of a, and I also take a look at each lifter to make sure there's nothing, no cracks on it or any excessive wear or anything like that. Or like this top piece that's clamped on here, that's not loose or looks like it's about to come off or anything. So this is a little bit tricky when you put this in the vise, and you'll need some type of vise to compress it down. This is going to have resistance when you tighten the vise down. It's going to have some resistance, and eventually it's going to bottom out, and you have to be careful not to compress it too far when you're doing this, because if it bottoms out and you continue to compress it, you can do damage internally to this thing. So what I do is I kind of just put a little bit of pressure on it to start moving it, and then you'll feel that it's almost like there you can see the oils coming out of it. It's almost like when you compress a shock. It's really kind of the same idea. It's gonna resist going down, but it will go down, and you have to know the difference from when it does bottom out. So as you do these, as you do 32 of them, like when on a 4 valve, you start to get a good feel for it. You can kind of play around with closing the hole, and then you can feel the difference on the vise. But I just keep a kind of a steady pressure on it. I know about how much it is. It's probably about maybe 5 foot-pounds or 4 foot-pounds or something like that. It's not that much. And the more that you do of these, you'll know how many times you have to switch this handle over as well. So there's one turn. It's a very long, slow process to do this. So right there, it stopped. I didn't increase any of the pressure. I didn't, it felt smooth the whole way until it got right here, until I noticed that there was a definite stop in it. So now I'm not going to push any more pressure on it, try and push through it. That's about how far, let's get a closer look here. That's about how far it'll go in when it's all the way in. You don't want to go past that. So there's like a little raised area that it necks down. It's about halfway between what is sticking out. And now we just got to do it 31 more times. When it's done bleeding down, I have a container, oil container, that I cut the lid off. We're gonna put them all in there and stack them all up, and then I'm gonna fill that with oil and let them sit overnight. Okay, hour and a half later, I got all 32 of them bled down. They're all squishy afterwards, a little bit squishy. They only go down about that far with finger pressure. This is why I like to use the red line container, because 30 of them fit down flat in there. The last two I put in with the little hole facing up, and then just gonna fill that container with what I like to use, which is Redline full synthetic. And I don't have any endorsement or anything from Redline. They've just been around for a long time, and they've been in the racing community, and probably one of the first full synthetics that I've ever heard of. I also like Royal Purple and basically any kind of full synthetic. But put that in there, let that soak overnight, and every now and then, if you're give it a good squeeze, try to get the air out of there. I don't know if this is just an old habit from doing the old style lifters, but it's what I do. I let them soak overnight, and then they'll be ready to go. Our lash adjusters have been soaking overnight. And a nice little pool of oil here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and see which ones I can fit in there, and the ones that will fit are the ones that the cam lobes are away from where they go. So we'll just go down the line, put in whatever we can. Now with our crank tool, we're going to rotate it backwards a full revolution to get more cam lobes out of the way, and then we'll put the rest in. Once you got all of your cam followers laid out, wipe them down, blow them out if you have to. You're going to check for any cracks or any excessive wear on any of these things. Also give it a turn and make sure that it turns pretty smooth. You don't want any binding or anything on there. Overall, these are pretty sturdy from the factory, so they're pretty good. Also, they're interchangeable. You don't have to keep them in order. Same with the lash adjusters. To put these in, they have a couple different tools. This is the one I'm going to be using. This one here is for, I believe it's for a 2-valve, but this one here also works on a 2-valve. So I have both of them. Sometimes I'll go back and forth with them, but this is probably the one that I use the most. And the way this one works is you can pull this pin out and move, and you can move the hook to the other side. And this is a 4-valve specific one. Now the hook will be on the other side. When I do this, if I am going to be working, so let's say I have the hook on this side, and I'm going to be prying down on this side, this part goes up over the cam as leverage. If I do it this way, I will usually put the pin in on this side, so that the head of the pin is over here. That's a little bit more clearance to get in there. You'll see it's going to be kind of tight and kind of tricky. And then be careful not to drop this or let this little C-clip come off of here. That could go down a oil passage or oil drain back or something, and that wouldn't be good. So be careful with that piece. Now, as far as leverage, I like to use this. This is a Cobalt 3/8 breaker bar, and I like it because the head of it up here in this area is small. And again, if we had the cam girdles on this engine, this would definitely come into play. But you'll need at least the 4-valve tool for the valve spring retainer tool, and a 3/8 pry bar. Back on our engine, I have it one rotation backwards still from when we put the lash adjusters in there. I like to keep these engines on top dead center as much as I can, with the indicators still on all the dots, so that I can always go back and see that all the dots are still and the timing is correct. So we're one rotation backwards, and what we'll do is we'll come in here and with the tool get all the ones like this cam is up. It's kind of pointing forward, I guess. So we'll get this tool and probably try that one and see. And this tool goes in like that. That little hook part sits right on the retainer, and then you pry back on this bottom part here. Pry back on this, and it compresses it down there. And so what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll do any of the ones that are on this left side. So I'll try that one. This one should be able to get it for sure. That lobe's all the way up here. This one maybe. So I'll do all the ones that need this tool to be set up on the left. And I'll do it on both sides, and then I'll switch this tool around to the right side, and I'll go back and do the right hand side ones before I rotate the engine to try and get more in. I'm going to try and do one of these close up, and then the rest of them I'm not going to do close up. But the way that I get it is you have this squared piece on the back side that goes on the valve, and you have the round side. So what I'll do is I'll put it on the valve first, and then slide it back a little bit, and then pivot it around so that it's all in line. So now all I have to do is push up on the cam follower, and push down on the spring a little bit, and it should pop right into place. And just like that, now it's in place. And now we just got to do that 31 more times. Okay, so I'm just going to go along, work my way across the top, and see which ones I can get. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side. Any of the cam lobes that are up, I'm going to put these on there. Okay, now I'm going to flip the tool around, and I should be able to get the same, the followers on the same ones we've already did. Okay, so now the tool is set up to pry on this side. So this one I was able to get one in on this side, so I'm going to see if I can get one on the other side. Now we're back on this side. So now you can see we got sets of cam followers and lash adjusters in there. So what we'll do is we'll rotate the engine around again and see if we can't get the rest of these. So remember, we're running one rotation back, and it's a good idea. So that's, yeah, the keyway is straight up and down. If the keyway is straight up and down, straight to the right, straight down, or straight to the left, all the pistons will be down, and none of them will be at top dead center. So it's a good idea to do that, so that when you're prying down on those valves, you don't pry it into a piston. Okay, so I'm going to do a half rotation forward, and now our keyway, or our key, is straight down, so all the pistons are down. So I did all the ones I could with the hook facing this way, so I'm going to switch it around the other way. Now we're going to do another half rotation. Keyway's up. Now we're going to flip our tool around again. Now this side is done. Got all of them in there. And we only got one left over here, and it's the exhaust on number 6. And I'm going to put the cam lobe all the way up because sometimes these studs can get in the way of the pivot tool. Now we got to change the tool one last time. So that was it. Now I've got all of them on this side. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this back around. So we got it back at top dead center. And all of our markings will be where they need to be.